All right, we hear a lot about AI answering questions, right? But what about when we ask it to actually do something for us? Today we're going to pop the hood on AI agents to see how they really think, how they go from a simple request to a finished task by using two key skills, reasoning and planning.
So let's imagine you ask an AI to do something kind of complicated. Like, hey, book me the absolute cheapest flight to Paris for next month. How in the world does it get from that sentence to a confirmed ticket in your email? I promise you it's not magic. It's a very deliberate process of thinking before acting.
And that right there is the key. For an AI agent to be truly useful, more than just a fancy chatbot, it can't just react to one command at a time. No, it has to be proactive. It needs to see the final destination, figure out all the turns to get there, and then start driving.
So how does an AI actually make that leap beyond just simple one-off reactions? Well, it all comes down to two really important abilities that have to work together. You can really boil it all down to these two questions. First, the AI needs a high-level strategy, that's the what, or what we call reasoning. And then it needs a concrete roadmap to pull off that strategy, and that's the how, or planning. And you absolutely cannot have one without the other. So let's tackle the first one, reasoning. This is all about the AI deciding on its overall strategy. This is the what.
The easiest way to think about reasoning is like it's the AI's internal monologue. It's that little voice in its head. It looks at your request, it looks at the tools it has available, and it kind of thinks to itself, okay, what's the best game plan here? It's not planning the individual steps yet. It's just deciding on the overall approach.
So, for our flight booking agent, its internal reasoning might sound a little something like this. It thinks, okay, the goal is the cheapest flight, so my strategy has to be to gather data from a bunch of different places first and only then compare the prices. That decision, that strategic choice, that's its what.
Okay, so the AI has its strategy. It knows what it wants to do. But a strategy isn't a to-do list, right? For that, it needs that second pillar, planning. And this is all about building the how.
Planning is what turns that high-level what into a step-by-step how. It's the process of creating a really precise, ordered blueprint. I mean, think about it. You have to search for the flight before you can pay for it. The order matters. Planning is what makes sure all the steps happen in a sequence that actually makes sense and works.
And this is what that plan looks like when you spell it out. See the difference? The reasoning was the idea, gather and compare. But the plan is this concrete recipe. Search, filter, reserve, pay, send the confirmation. It's a logical chain of actions that gets the agent all the way from A to Z. So, what's actually going on under the hood to make all this happen? What kind of techniques are these agents using? Let's take a quick peek inside the AI's toolkit.
Now, don't worry, you don't need to memorize all this. But this gives you a taste of the classic techniques AIs have been using for a while. For our flight booker, for example, it might use something called backward chaining, where you start with the final goal, a booked ticket, and work your way backwards to figure out the steps. Or for a really big project, it might use hierarchical planning, which is just a fancy way of saying it breaks a big goal into smaller, manageable chunks. Just like we do.
But here's the cool part. Today's most powerful agents don't just pick one of these old-school tools. No, they combine the best of different worlds to get something really special, both creativity and precision.
This hybrid approach is what makes modern agents so powerful and flexible. They're basically taking two different approaches and smashing them together. So what are these two worlds? Well, you can think of it as a partnership between human-like creativity and pure machine logic.
Here's exactly how that works. Imagine an artist and an engineer working on a project together. On one side, you've got the creative artist. That's the large language model, which provides that flexible, common sense, human-like reasoning. But on the other side, you've got the super precise engineer. That's the symbolic planner, and its job is to create a perfect, logical, rule-based blueprint that is guaranteed to work.
And when you put those two together, you get the absolute best of both worlds. You get the creative, what from the artist, and the rock-solid, precise how from the engineer. The result is an agent that can understand what you want like a person, but execute the task with the flawless perfection of a machine.
So, look, if you remember just one thing from all this, Make it this. Reasoning is the strategist that decides what to do, and planning is the project manager that figures out exactly how to get it done. That partnership is the engine driving the AI agents we see today.
So, as these AI agents get better and better and better at figuring out the how for pretty much any task we can think of, the ball kind of comes back into our court. The real question for us becomes, what's the next what? What are the really big, ambitious goals we're going to set for them to solve next? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.